Hi, this is Truth Be Told Transformation, and I'm Bonnie Burkert, here to share tools for transformation to live your highest truth. For me, music has always helped me find my truth. I think through music, you can both meet yourself and lose yourself, right? It can speak to you, but it can also help you transcend. So today, I've invited to the show a very special artist, harmonica master Grant Dermody. Hello, Grant.
Hi, Bonnie.
Well, thanks for joining us. This is really great.
I'm glad to be here.
How long have you been playing harmonica?
About 37 years.
Okay, that's amazing. And ever exploring, ever discovering?
Always a work in progress.
Right? That's really amazing. Mm-hmm. One of the when we first met, I don't know how it came up in conversation, but you let me know that you have a practice of shamanism as well. And when I was doing a little write-up for the show, I used the word shaman, and you stopped me.
You can use the word shaman. I can't use the word shaman. I can't use that word to describe myself. It's just kind of one of those rules of the deal. So it's not a word. I would refer to myself as a shamanic practitioner.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you'll tell us a little more of what that means for you. And I would also just like to comment myself about how the music is magic, the magic of music, for sure. And I was maybe describing to somebody about going to concerts when I was a kid, and perhaps there were some psychedelics involved, I'm just saying. But it was almost like the music was informing the substance I was using to kind of get to that higher place versus the other way around. So I thought I would just ask you about how music is mystical for you.
Wow. Well, I mean, the instrument that I chose, the harmonica, I think it's the closest thing to the human voice. I think it can get any emotion that you have. You have to be willing to go there, though. So it's not always going to be emotions that you find easy to express, because the song may call for something that's uncomfortable for you, but you still have to go there if you want to play that song. So it's about that, it's about I think always music is about telling the truth and digging deep and soaring high, and I just keep exploring that, trying to do a little bit better on all three.
That's great. So would you care to give us an example of a harmonica being like the human voice?
Hard Time Killing Floor Blues, Skip James, and that's an example of something where you want to dig as deep as you can.
Wow, I feel that. And tell me about your relationship with blues music.
The first time I heard it, I was walking into a record store in the University District in Seattle, where I grew up, and they had Jimmy Reed live at Carnegie Hall playing on the record player. In those days, they had record players. So it just stopped me in my tracks and turned me around, and I went, what is that, man? That is like the coolest thing I've ever heard. And I just kind of got into it from there. My dad bought me a harmonica when I was 18. I was living in Fairbanks, Alaska at the time, right in the middle of the pipeline. There were like a dozen places to hear live music on any given night, and a lot of the bands played blues. And I started just discovering great harmonica players and trying to figure out what they were doing.
Right on. And it's since led you down to Louisiana, which is obviously, there's some deep soul that's happening in our country in that area for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you were discovering, it's fascinating to think about there was that much music happening in Fairbanks. I love that because it's a faraway land, and it just goes to show you how music brings people together.
Absolutely.
Which I think is another important part of kind of what we're talking here about, a spiritual and even a healing, right? Because nowadays there's so much we can do on our own and never leave our houses.
Well, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's nothing like coming together in the experience around live music. to shift energy. And that's what we're talking about
I
right
think
here,
so.
Grant.
I think
mean,
so. Yeah.
is feeling the energy. So you were experiencing that music up there, and I think it's fantastic that there were bands playing and you were moved by the blues both there in Seattle. Now, very, very different part of the country, in Louisiana. So tell us your exploration down there.
Well, there's the culture is just about music. I mean, everything revolves around music. It's whether you're playing, whether you're dancing, whether you're deeply listening, you're all part of the same thing. And everybody just gathers and is part of it. And so it's very much a community thing. It's very much an ownership thing. Like, that's whole families that play. I mean, and everybody plays at a masterful level. So the music, I mean, is just, the accordion is king down there, the accordion and the fiddle. But you can make the harmonica sound like an accordion if you know what you're doing.
Let's hear it.
So here's a... So that's a little tune.
Bravo. That is so incredible, right?
It's really fun. Yeah. So there's a great Cajun harmonica player down where I live. His name is Jerry DeVilliers, and he taught me how to do that. So
I know you'll be doing, this is in 2022 that we're taping, and you'll be doing an incredible harmonica summit. So everybody make your way down to Lafayette in late October, and there's a link here that you can find out more, as well as at grantdermody.com. Would be amazing. So I want to tell you a story.
Okay.
I had a shamaness. I don't know if that's such a word. I'm sorry that I don't want to use that word in this. I don't even like the word yogini for that way. I mean,
Okay.
let's not modernize.
Yeah, like musicianess. I mean, what's the point?
Well,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So I retract that and say there was a woman who was a shaman. She came to my house in the Hollywood Hills, and I tend to tell stories about this house and this location. And I wanted her to assess the energy.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of going through some stuff. I was having a little trouble finding a job or whatever all was going on. But mostly I just wanted her to get into, a vibe on this 100-year-old house. And she told me that it was quite clear. And her recommendations were to go on the back hill and put bird seed out for the migrating birds, which is lovely because I love birds. So that would be something I'd probably do anyway. But the other thing she wanted me to do was to play harmonica in my bathroom. The reason being is that my landlord, who came from Alabama, had paneled the walls of my bathroom with wood. I don't know. I'm going to say a pine. I'm not sure. From his family's home in Alabama.
Wow.
And there had been, this is her read, there had been slaves, and there was some energy there. And she thought that harmonica would help.
Wow.
So I thought you might like that story. Wow. I'm like, what are the chances that I would have a shaman and harmonica story to share with you?
That's really cool.
So I just wanted to get your take on something like that, because we just did a show on hauntings, as a matter of fact. So tell me, this sort of plays into harmonica specifically and music in general to move energy, to help shift something, even if it's as old as that, hundreds of years old.
I think everything has an energy, everything has a spirit, and so if the spirit of the harmonica, which is made of wood, at least mine are, meets with the spirit of the wood of the bathroom walls, really cool things could happen. It just
very nice.
It just depends on what's going on.
Right.
So you're talking about wood. You're also talking about spirits. You're talking about spirits that were around a long time ago that helped create the energy that's in that wood.
Right.
And so, or add to the energy that the wood already had, I guess is another way to say it.
Also, yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of leaps to mind. And then whatever energy is going around in your house right now that's different from the energy that was in Alabama however many years ago.
Right.
So it's kind of a It just sort of is a constant morphing and moving, and I think you're just trying to add as much positive as you can, and I happen to think that there's a lot of positive energy in the harmonica. So,
Well, I mean, it's embarrassing, and I wish I would have brought it along, but I got a mini harmonica. It's like 1 inch long, and from time to time, I still do play, but nothing like what you're doing.
Those are hard to play. The holes are really small.
It's really,
yeah,
I know.
so-
Well, next time you're on, we will. I will bring it along and we'll duet.
All right, sounds good. That sounds great.
Yeah, so it's interesting to get your take on that. And what are some other examples of how you might have used harmonica with others? I mean, have you ever had any? I mean, you were mentioning to me about Reiki.
Yeah, I do Reiki. I incorporate Buddhist mantra, and I also incorporate music into healing. So it's all spirit driven and spirit directed work, and so I follow spirit direction when I put my hands on someone. You know, like if like the other day I was helping a friend who had been in a motorcycle accident and his legs were in pretty bad shape, and I was directed to put most of my energy on his feet and on his ankles. But if I'm working with somebody who hasn't been in an accident and I start, just doing Reiki and I start doing shamanic work, sometimes I'm guided to play a D chord right into the top of somebody's head, and just go. I just hold that for a long time, and sometimes I'm guided to do it several times. Sometimes once is enough. Sometimes I do a different thing after that. But I just follow what I'm guided to do.
Do you find that? I find that very calming. So when you play that for me, I found it. I found it calming. Was that the intention, or is it more clearing, activating?
Can be anything.
Different.
It can be all at once. It can be anything. It can be. Sometimes shamanic work and healing work can be about clearing and moving things out of the way that's in the way of somebody being at their highest good, truest self. And music can absolutely do that. Sometimes it's about centering. Sometimes it's about calling in what you already have that maybe calling in something that you've lost, and music can help you do that as well. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So you've got a record coming up, and it's called Behind the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that and the making of it, and again, always sort of keeping in mind, as much as I feel that as much as you are a harmonica master, you're also a master of energy and with intention in how you're living your life.
Well, thank you. It's called Behind the Sun because there's a Muddy Waters tune called Louisiana Blues, and one of the lyrics is going down to Louisiana, baby, behind the sun. And then kind of behind the sun is where we are in Louisiana. It's just like the sun is a big part of things. It's hot, and the heat is part of everything. And as far as making the record, it's the third record I've done with Dirk Powell, and he and I have a really good musical connection, and we wanted to just play the blues, and so we just keep diving deeper into playing blues. We actually took a road trip to Rolling Fork, Mississippi, to kind of get a little bit of the energy of where Muddy Waters was raised. And we were kind of walking around the main street, and I could see a vision of him as a young man walking up and down the street with a guitar case. And that was really cool.
Wow.
And so, and then, we used all Louisiana musicians. That blues is kind of like second nature to them. And there's some gospel stuff on there, too. But mostly it's just a straight-ahead blues record. Bass, drums, harmonica, guitar, and piano.
Beautiful.
So,
yeah, fantastic. No, I love this record. I've had a chance to listen to it in advance, and it's some beautiful stuff. And, again, I feel the mood of that region is quite unique to this whole country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's, when you look at the different cultures, and there's distinctive cultures all over America, of course, but there's something about Louisiana in particular, but just that whole region and what incredible, what an incredible contribution to the whole planet through this genre of music that would then birth rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Delta blues became Chicago blues, became rock and roll. It's kind of, I mean, that's a simplified way of looking at it, but that is sort of what happened.
Yeah, right on. I've just the Elvis movie that's out there really depicts, Memphis back in the day and that influence. So I love seeing that, and it's really great. And I thank you for that story about Muddy Waters, because I think if you listen, that's an opportunity. It's really an invitation to go into places and tune in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, Muddy Waters' first instrument was the harmonica, and he was, he could play. But he became a really great guitar player and singer. And then, if you had the chair in the harmonica chair in the Muddy Waters band, you could play. I mean, you better be able to play.
Right on.
So,
yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of playing, would you like to play a little more for us, please?
Yeah. Let's see.
Surprise us with something.
Well, we're talking about
for those
South.
people that are listening only, I want you to know Grant has just put his hand across all of his harmonicas in this darling case that he's got, and just to feel into what's next and what are you going to do for us here.
This is a DeFord Bailey tune. DeFord Bailey was a really great harmonica player out of Nashville, and he played solo harmonica pieces. And was on the Grand Ole Opry and did all kinds of cool stuff. So this is a tune that he liked to do.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Right? I mean, such different distinctive moods to all these songs you're playing for us. It's really, really incredible.
That's an old piano tune called Cow Cow Boogie, and he turned it into a harmonica piece called Davidson County Blues. So there you go. That's DeFord.
Where are we at with harmonica music in popular culture? Do you feel that it's musically it tends to lean more towards the genre of the blues, or do you feel that there's other people incorporating it into more modern music that may be rock? I don't know. There's so much electronica out there right now. Surely it doesn't fit in there.
There's a lot going on. I think the harmonica can be found in classical music. It can be found in jazz. It can be found in folk. You have singer-songwriters. They're going to pick up a harmonica and put it on a rack and play while they're playing guitar. And so you'll have that. You'll have rock and roll bands where the lead singer will pick up the harmonica and play. So you'll have that. I mean, it just depends on what you like. I am drawn to people who play the blues well, and those are the people I really enjoy listening to.
Yeah.
But I appreciate somebody who takes the time to learn how to make the harmonica sound good, and then add it to what it is that they're doing. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of possibilities for that.
Yeah.
And also, I want to bring up that you're a teacher as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've been, we mentioned the Harmonica Summit. So it's not just for fun, although it sounds like you are going to be having a lot of fun down in Louisiana, including Cajun food people. But I think there's some opportunity for instruction. So tell us a little bit about that. Again, bringing in, I think, with your practice, with your spiritual practice, I feel that evolves and probably really it can't help but inform you as a teacher as well, as you're interacting with people, as you're helping people find their voice through the instrument, but also maybe in life as well.
That's a really great question. Yes, teaching encompasses all of that. I've been teaching the harmonica almost as long as I've been playing it, and that's partly due to a really good friend of mine named Jackson Hiley, who taught me the fundamentals of the harmonica early on. And he was doing workshops, and he would have me come in and teach. And I was like, Jackson, I don't know how to do any of these. He goes, yeah, you do, man. You've been playing for a year. You can help somebody who's been playing for 2 months. And it's like, okay, yeah, all right. So, teaching there's so many spiritual lessons in teaching and in music too, for that matter. But one of them is you have to meet people where they are, not where you wish they were. And
good advice.
And you have to so you have to be able to see where they are, and you have to be able to hear where they are. And I've gotten to the point with the instrument where I can listen to you play, and I can tell what shape your mouth is in when you're playing, like what vowel sound you'd be saying, and where you're breathing from. And I can help you. I can hear what that is, and then I can help you go from there. And so the biggest thing that I do with people is I try to help them find their voice on the instrument. I don't want them to be imitators. Bob Dylan already played. Neil Young already played. Little Walter already played. So what do you have to say? And what is it that you want to do? And so I help them do that. And then I help them. We talked about some of the shamanic stuff. Sometimes you're bringing things in that you need to help you be more centered, and then sometimes you need to get rid of things that are in the way of you fully expressing who you are. So what is that fear? Where is that fear coming from? Is that your own stuff? Is that ancestral stuff? Is that stuff you took on from other people when you were younger? What's going on with that? So, depending on the person, we can talk about that, but sometimes I approach it more from a breath standpoint than I do from a shamanic standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, it just depends on what they want to do, But
with the breath, speak to that, because that's so important. As a instructor of yoga myself, there's breath is all. So
well,
tell us,
breathing, the harmonica is capable of sounding huge. It's not a big instrument, but you can make it sound really big if you know what you're doing. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll hear people, and they're creating the sound from here, from the throat. Maybe not even in the throat, maybe just kind of right above the throat. And so that gives you that kind of a sound. So if you want to open up, and it's the kind of breath where you're diving and you part the water, and by that time you really need to breathe, and you're going. And that's what every harmonica breath needs to be.
Oh, wow.
That kind of a sound. So if you have that, that's much different than.
Wow.
If I do that on a different harmonica, there's the thin sound. There's the big sound.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
You just have so opening up and letting that sound come is really hard for some people because because there's a lot that's in the way, and maybe they've been told, don't be loud, don't be powerful, don't let yourself be heard like that, and so we have to deal with that at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and so. Interesting, you as an instructor, maybe other music teachers as well. Look at what they're probably helping people, because I always say this about musicians, artists in general. You're channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are a channel finding, I'd say, the spirit. And we talked about this, sort of in our pre-interview, the spirit of the harmonica, the spirit of the song, the spirit of the place, and then obviously the spirit that you bring to it all as well.
Yeah, well, that comes back down to the spiritual lessons of music. I believe that as a musician, my job is to serve the song. First, I have to serve the genre, but I absolutely have to serve the song. And each song requires something slightly different. So I can't just rattle off my bag of licks song to song and expect that it's all going to work. You have to look at it in a much different way than that. And so, another spiritual lesson is that most of the time it's not about you. If you're in a band, most of the time you're trying to help everybody else sound better than they could sound without you. Even in a duo, if you're backing up a singer-songwriter or something like that. But when it is about you, then you got to bring it, and you got to bring it from as deep a place as you can. And you have to do that from a place not of trying to show somebody up, but to bring everything you have to the table, because that's what the situation calls for right now. And again, you're going to run into people who that goes against everything that they were told when they were brought up as children, you know. And so, you know, but you have to get past that if you're going to play some kinds of songs.
You know, as you're talking about playing in a band, and I want to ask this question. I'm sort of having this revelation in a way, because I had a lot of years in the music business, right? Mm-hmm. And there was always the movement to sign the artists that were super young. Mm-hmm. However, I feel that, and as I watch you and as I hear you talk about the wisdom of what you bring to this, it just makes me realize that older is better when it comes to music. I think that, or
it can be.
I mean, the youthfulness, there's probably this really, really vibrant sort of discovery that's happening there, and it's wild and free and crazy. Mm-hmm. But here, there's the refinement, and I think the collaboration is what I also am hearing. As you talk about playing with other artists, I don't know that you always, it's that same experience with that younger band that's just getting started.
Okay. All right. I mean, you know, the exceptions to that might be the Beatles at age 20-something did pretty phenomenal things. and you know, Aretha Franklin at 20-something had a ton of power and a ton of
magic,
ton of wisdom. But, you know, I mean, I think people come to it in different ways. I get, you know, it took me longer. I had more there were some things that I needed to go through in order to get to where I was, in order to where I am now. So, you know, I think that's what it comes down to, you know, playing with my own voice. You know, I sound like me. I don't sound like anybody else. I don't try to sound like anybody else. And I want to just tell my own story. And that's another thing, is that you can, the only story that you can really tell is your own, because, you know, all the other ones have already been taken.
And yet I think we probably try to tell the story perhaps of the artists whose songs we're playing, one, mm-hmm. or if in fact, you know, you're covering some music, as well as maybe an homage to a genre or a place where you're playing, or opportunities like that. So,
yeah, sure. I mean, you could do a little Walter tune, and you could, you know, sing the lyrics that he sang, and you can, you know, but you shouldn't recreate the solo that he did on stage because he already did that.
Right on.
So you have to be able to say it your way.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Speaking of lyrics, so you're also a writer of lyrics?
I do. I write songs, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that process, what you're looking for, what comes through for you in that way. Again, because we talked about, I forget, there was something that you were wanting to do, and you said, I think I need to take a check on my energy. And
oh, yeah.
Right, and you kind of touched on it before. Mm-hmm. You can remind me of that, and then you can also tell me a little bit about how that works for you as a writer, as the songs are being crafted.
Well, let's see. So where do we start with that? You know, just kind of energetically checking in. You know, if there's agitation, if there's anger, if there's, you know, if there's you know, if something's knocking me off my center, you know, where is it coming from? What is it? Is it mine? Is it coming from someplace else? Is it coming from something that I picked up somewhere? Is it, you know, just kind of stopping and looking and checking in and then seeing what's going on, and then taking appropriate action depending on what answers that I get. So I can do healing on myself sometimes. Sometimes it's bigger than me, and I have to get some help from, so I have many shamanic sisters and brothers that I know, and I can give them a call and say, hey, I need some help. And so I can do that. As far as music goes and creating and the creative process, sometimes a tune will start with a harmonica lick, just like, you know, something that I just pick up and play. Yeah. And then a whole song evolves from that. And then sometimes it'll come just from some little lyric, like even a part of a lyric, not even just like a line. And then the whole song will evolve from that. So I always carry a notebook with me, and I write the things down as they come, and if I don't have time to write it down, I'll sing it or play it into my phone, and that's as technical as I get. That's what I do. So, you know, I just try to write songs that tell the truth, but also, that other people can relate to it. It's not just it's not, I don't think that songs should be an inside joke. I think that they should, I think it should speak to what we're all going through.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, I love that. One more song request.
Okay.
Any examples of maybe one of those songs?
Yeah, I could. I'll show you a tune that started with a harmonica lick.
Okay.
And, I'm not sure if I like that one. It's a little.
He's got about 12 to choose from here.
Gonna lay down my burden in the sun by the water's side. It's been such a long wind blowing cold. They say every morning brings about a changing tide. I don't believe everything I've been told. Bad breaks, no big mistakes, must be coming from another time. Who do I see to pay this debt I owe? Feeling good, knock on wood, world of worry laying on my mind. Don't say that's the way these things go.
Bravo. That's incredible. Thanks. You. And also just a taste. What a rich voice you have. I was telling Grant before we came in, there's something immediately very calming about your voice. And I mean, again, there's just so many different ways that we can give to others. So you're doing so with your music. But also, I think you take your time as you tell your stories. And they're stories that have been well told, well lived, and I think it's great, and I really appreciate it. You want to leave us with any other pearls of wisdom? As for other harmonica players out there, for other people that are on the path, again, just the way you described, checking in with yourself.
Yeah. It's just, the thing about the harmonica is like I said before, you can get any emotion that you have out of the harmonica, but you have to be willing to go there. And so that willingness takes a while sometimes. You maybe you think you have the willingness. Well, so here's an example. My wife passed away like 12 years ago. She had cancer, and she was sick for a while, and I was the primary caregiver. And during that time, I recorded that first song I played for you, Hard Time Killing Floor Blues, with John Cephas. And I used to think that I knew what that song meant. And I used to think that I could get down to it and get all of it. And then when I recorded it with John, and my wife is up in the cabin with no hair and really sick,
so sorry.
I finally understood what that song meant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's part of what you're talking about too, is like life experience. You live. I don't know who said it. It might have been Louis Armstrong, but I don't think it was, who said, if you don't live it, it's not going to come out your horn. And another way to say that is, if you do live it, it can come out your horn, and you just have to be willing to do that.
Or your harmonica.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what it is. I think the biggest thing for anybody that's an artist is just be yourself and tell your story and continue to work on that and learn from other people. But don't make other people's story your story. Have it be your story. Amen. I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was so great. And just a reminder, Grant Dermody, you've got, 4 records out? 4 albums out? The 5th one is just coming out right now. Okay, so this is, Under Behind the Sun is number 5. Mm-hmm. And you can contact Grant at grantdermody.com. You can work with him as a teacher.
and catch up with him doing shows. In particular, there's this workshop that you've got coming up that sounds like a lot of fun the third week in October. So head over to the website to find out more about that. Okay. And we'll also post some information in the description of the YouTube show. So thanks, everybody. It is really, again, my true honor to be able to invite guests to the show that help you explore and be your best. So I thank Tony Sweet, my producer, who has a show every Friday live. So get on YouTube and talk to him and talk to the community for sure. That would be 3 p.m. Pacific. And Robert Hensley also does shows every week, as do I. New episode on Wednesdays. We really thank you for following and sharing what we're doing here. Be sure to subscribe, super important. And until then, everybody, tune in and stay shiny. Till the next time.